Hello and welcome. Apologies for the slight delay in getting started, just some technical hiccups, but we are up and running now. So good morning and good afternoon from wherever you're joining us from. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brenton Melville and I am the Commercial Delivery Manager here at Avinode. And welcome to our very first virtual Node Talk event. We're very excited to have you all here and we have a great hour ahead of us. So Node Talks concept itself was first created as a series of talks that we ran at our shows at NBAA and eBase. Now, unfortunately, as we all know, due to the state of the world, we haven't been able to attend or participate in any types of events like this. But we decided that we would still run along with these events in a virtual format to be able to provide a platform for our members to come together and discuss different topics. So the topic for today's session is getting comfortable with charter payments. Very soon we'll jump into the first session. That will be run by my colleague Patrick Lucy, and he'll be joined by four Avinode members who's going to give their take on what makes charter payments uncomfortable for them today. Following on from the panel, we are going to jump into a short demonstration of Paynode, which will be run by my colleague Niklas Berntsson, who is the Paynode product manager. And then we will have a Q&A session following on from that. So any questions that you have on Paynode, we will be there to answer those questions. And then we will close the event out with a networking session. So this is where you'll have the opportunity to meet with other attendees, have one-on-one conversations, either with attendees, panel members, or some Avinode employees. Throughout the event, we'd like to encourage everyone to use the chat over on the right-hand side. If you have a question, please, we would love to encourage some participation. If we don't get around to answering the questions in the panel discussion, we can always try to address them later on in the Q&A session. And also, next to the chat, you have a tab where you can find polls. Throughout the event, we're going to ask some questions to the audience just to get their take. So without any further ado, I would like to invite my colleague Patrick Lucy up onto stage. And just as he is joining, I'll take the opportunity to put out the very first question to the audience in the poll, which is, what do you think is the most challenging thing with charter payments today? Welcome, Pat. Let me hand it over to you to introduce our panel members and take a discussion.
Hello. Thank you, Brenny. Hello and welcome. Some of you might be wondering, who's this guy? What happened to that young buck from the promotional photo for this event? Don't let the beard fool you. Still the same guy. Just seems the unforeseen impacts of COVID and isolation has taken a bigger toll on me than initially anticipated. For those that do not know me, my name is Pat, and I'm an account manager for the Avinode Group. And as Brenton mentioned, I'll be moderating today's panel discussion on the challenges of charter payments. Throughout the discussion, I strongly encourage anyone to put forward their questions that they might have via the chat function, and I'll do my utmost to present these to today's fantastic panel that has a vast amount of industry experience and knowledge, and we have the privilege of tapping into this wealth of information to get a deeper insight into their own unique perspectives. On that note, I am delighted to introduce the four panel members joining us. We have Daniela, Captain and Commercial Director of Luxwing, based out of Malta. We have Michael, Director of Charter Sales of Leviate Air Group, based out of the US. Matt, Managing Director of Aviation Needs, based out of the UK. And last but not least, Algie, Vice President of Sales at Air Hamburg, based out of Germany. Welcome, gentlemen. Now, they have come into the panel. Doesn't appear to. Let me see. So if we can just get the panel members to request to join. They need to request to share their audio and video. and then that'll allow us to let you join the panel discussion. Lovely. Danielle, welcome.
Thank you. How are you? Good?
Yeah, well, thank you. Always enjoying the struggles of trying something new with technology.
Exactly.
Just waiting on Algie, Michael, and Matt to join the panel.
Hi there, guys.
Hi, Algie. Welcome.
Thank you.
Right. We're 50% of the way, so we're getting there. Things are slowly improving with time.
Just so you know, Pat, I was actually waiting. So I guess you have to go out of the event and come back in and ask again. Some of the other guys might have got hooked up on that one. Just a bit of info for the other guys in case they're waiting.
Aha. Good bit of tip. Truth be told, first time playing around with this event. Hi, Michael. Welcome.
I did it. That was big. That was difficult.
Yeah. So I guess we're weaning out these issues slowly but surely. Last but certainly not least, Matt.
Good afternoon.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Let's crack on. You may have seen a poll was posted with regards to what do you think is the most challenging thing about charter payments? Let's start with you, LG. What would your perspective on that be?
The most challenging thing about charter payments, I think, definitely would be the massively diverse number of different countries, people, organizations that we deal with. Mm-hmm. I think it's something that's clear about aviation as a whole. I mean, obviously, is that we all deal with companies from all over the world with all kinds of banking systems. Many of them are completely different. Speeds of transfer vary wildly. I mean, I'm from the UK, and before I left my last company, Private Fly, it was quite normal to get payments very quickly from UK accounts in a day. And then I moved to Germany, where I saw that even domestic transfers here can often take 1 or even 2 days. So I think the biggest challenge is just the varied number of different countries and different banking institutions and different forms of financial institution that we deal with on a daily basis. That would be the hardest thing about getting paid in our industry, I think. Okay, thank you.
So, and obviously that was from an operator's perspective. If we flip that coin, Matt, from a broker's point of view, what do you think is the most challenging aspect of charter payments?
Yeah, so I mean, it's very similar to Algie, really. I mean, I think, one of the big things that we see predominantly looking after sort of our entertainment and sports clients, everything is quite last minute at the best of times anyway. You're dealing with people that haven't got enough time on their hands. Some people have got, layers and layers of corporate sort of people in the background to do these things. Some people don't, I mean, some of our clients, if we ask to do an international payment, they just freeze. They have no clue. They've got a debit card in their hand or a credit card in their hand with a long number. That's pretty much their financial limits. But we then have got clients that have got full teams that ring to check different client account details. We've got both ends of the spectrum, really, and I think it's about having a format and a system that is modular based on experience and knowledge that you're dealing with. And as I say, we have that full range really of clients, even the most simple pound-to-pound payment can be a challenge for some of our clients.
Okay, thank you. Based on the poll that was just presented to the audience, Daniela, the most common response that we received back was securing last-minute payments. Is that an issue that you come into terms with on a daily basis or weekly?
Well, every time that we manage a last-minute flight, we have always the same question: we can trust, we cannot trust, what we can do. Of course, a good friend of us is Paynode. This is a new system that we start using since the beginning. And from my point of view, is the best solution. Also, not only from my point of view as operator, but as a broker. So when I charter some flight from my colleague, especially the last time, the last update that you performed on the site is very well, work very well. I mean the Paynode in instant payment. That can really the good point of is like it's an instant payment, so they will solve a lot of issue for us.
Gee, what is this Paynode you speak of? Shall I plug it? Speaking of last minute payments, Michael, there's an increasing prevalence, I guess, of risk, particularly with deception around fraud. Is this something that you've encountered?
Yeah, our company, unfortunately, just too recently has had this issue. Long story short, we booked an international trip last minute, of course, as they always are. Collected payment from the client. Step one, step two, all of it was done in the correct order. Operator had a mechanical on the repositioning flight, and terms and cancellation terms that you would assume are industry standard were not to this operator. And they are 100% keeping everything that we sent to them beforehand. So, it becomes you send the payment beforehand, before the flight. That's just how it goes. They don't want to collect money and perform the flight without it. So we do that.
Sure.
And it's an international operator. We haven't worked with every operator in the world, as has nobody else, and they weren't a Lux Wing. They don't have that credibility, an Air Hamburg, anything like that. So you do what you can, but it's a situation that it's evolving right now. It's going on. So
what did you put in place to try and obviously mitigate that from occurring in the future, or what steps have you taken?
Yeah, it honestly is so fresh. It's within, it happened last week, actually. So we're just now putting in those plans. But one would be, go back to Paynode and having something like that, a uniform, or one operator is on there and a broker is on it as well, and we can both send our money to it. Using that would have probably helped us a lot. Also mitigate it.
From an operator's perspective, LG, not connecting the two dots here by no means, but have you experienced a similar scenario or some sort of?
I think, yeah. Obviously, thanks to Michael for saying that we're a reputable operator, and obviously, we have this trade-off of between giving the brokers peace of mind by offering credit or at least offering quite flexible terms, and also building up a reputation that people know that we're not doing something like the operator that Michael was talking about. But by the same side of the coin, by the other side of the coin, in trying to be flexible, in trying to be open, in trying to offer, numerous parties credit terms, that can easily be taken advantage of. We think we're quite trusting. We like to think that if we are trusting, other people will trust us and the money will arrive. And thank God, 99% of the time it does. And we're actually constantly really happy at how it goes in this industry. But of course, there's always the 1, maybe 2% of the money that never arrives. You work with brokers, they'll send a proof of payment. Maybe the money arrives, maybe it doesn't. But that's not something you can know before the flight. And so, we are operating sometimes on blind faith.
Yeah. Okay. Matt, when it comes to internal resources and processes, how are you working today when it comes to the processing of your payments?
So I think, one of the big things that we focused on as a company during COVID is just trying to streamline everything and see, again, make things easier, make them more transparent. I think turnaround times, everybody wants a price now, everybody wants to fly now, everything's now. And so what we've spent a lot of time sort of, looking at systems that will assist us to get us there, really. So that's been our big focus from my side, really, is driving, suitable solutions so that we can do things faster, but still without putting risk in front of all of that.
Right. And Daniela, same to you in terms of internal processes. Obviously, you referred to Paynode before, but is there anything else that you're utilizing within the space?
Well, of course, like I think my colleague and all people that are watching us, the primary is always the bank transfer that is faster. Right. And we use it and I experiment a few times the Avinode bank account also for some urgent flight that we had in the United States. So from my point of view, the right connection between for this business are going up with the Paynode system that can help us also for the credit card, but also for the bank transfer, and especially the last born urgent payment that is like PayPal. It's my favorite. So.
Right. We have a question actually that's come in from Roger, and I guess this is to anyone that's using Paynode, but from Roger. When dealing with operators that we haven't dealt with, we're always in fear of the operator will perform. I will always be in fear, of the operator will perform as contracted. How will Paynode help us to ease that our money is safe? I guess Algie, start with you, mate. Being an operator and all.
Yeah, I mean, so the way that we use Paynode is obviously there's a stage where, I mean, obviously either with instant payments or with credit card payments, you have to confirm after the flight's taken place that all services have been fulfilled. And obviously that's an important side of Paynode, is confirming after the flight that the services have been fulfilled before the money is released out of, I mean, I don't know, I don't want to call it escrow exactly, just in case I would be wrong about that, but it is a form of escrow, I would guess, where the sides have to confirm that the services have been provided, to answer Roger's question, I guess.
Cool. I'll let some of the other chaps pick that up in the Q&A afterwards. I know they'll be delighted to talk about escrow/Paynode. Michael, when it comes to international flights, what are some of the challenges that you've experienced when dealing with different currencies?
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be the large amounts of money that we have going into it, the wide variety of the fluctuation between the two currencies that you're dealing with, and then the fact that even though there are large amounts that we're dealing with, the margins on the brokerage side is not that huge. So it is minimal amounts that we're working with at the end of the day. That these fluctuations can come back and bite you. So that is the risk right there. And it's ever fluctuating. It's always moving. So with something that's a standstill quote that you get from an operator, and then having to deal with a client who, going back to Matt's point, they have either several different methods that they're going through, steps that they have to do to create or confirm a payment or a trip. It just takes time. So a price that you're quoted and that you're going off to the operator or to the client, I mean, that price is changing so much. So that's the difficulty right there that I see.
Mm. Yeah, okay. Is anyone wanting to add anything onto that?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a scenario, I guess, in the last 6 months where it was a weekend charter. It came in quite late. The flight was on on a Monday morning, very early. The funds we had, they wanted a card hold on the Saturday. We obviously wired the funds to them on the Monday, and they ended up taking the full payment on the card, and they took the wire funds. And a bit like Michael was just saying, what happened then was, by the time the hold got changed and the operator said, yeah, fine, it's our mistake, we've taken the full funds, not as a hold, actually the shortfall was quite substantial. And to be fair, they did cover it, but again, it was a cost that they didn't really need to cover, and we definitely didn't want to cover. So it was through, an easy mistake. But I guess, again, this will overcome this, so we can offer the payment on a weekend as well.
Yeah, that leads nicely really into my next question in terms of some of those challenges, Matt, if you can just pick it up again in terms of weekend or bank holiday related scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to what I was saying from the start, really. Predominantly our main client base is the entertainment and sports world. Some of the busiest times are on, public holidays, weekends. These things change. It might be that they have family members that are ill, or they want to fly their family members to the event, whether that be the sports or music side. It's a last minute decision. Especially, I foresee that to continue with COVID. And so, again, unfortunately, the traditional bank has been Monday to Friday, pretty much 9 till 5 for the UK, with a 3 o'clock same day cutoff that we have currently. So, we've been dictated to really by those operational hours, which have then had an impact. So at 4 o'clock on a Friday, we're here to make the payment, but the back end is not there to make that transaction. So it opens up, the Paynode world opens up that problem and gives us the solution, I guess.
Okay. I was going to ask Daniela, same question to you when it comes to dealing with that from an operator's perspective for the bank holidays, the weekend and so forth.
Yes, as Matt already explained, is exactly the same things. Of course, we are some broker where we work always, and with some clients that have some credit line. But the big problem arrives with a new customer, where you need to manage the situation. All the time, I also informed my team to use your service as a credit card or immediate payment, because this will solve all issue from my point of view. Because of course, if he's a good person where they have some credit line from me, and I think from also my colleague, we have not a big issue. The problem will come with the new and the last minute flight that always come in the night, in the Saturday, Sunday, and you don't have time to manage and check with the bank.
LG, in terms of securing payments in, I guess, the more troubling regions around the globe, is this a common issue that you come up again?
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to add, you're talking about bank holidays. Obviously, I think certainly Daniela and I probably do a lot of business in Russia. And they have about 17,000 bank holidays per year. They every 2 days is a bank holiday in Russia. They celebrate every possible event from every religion, and it means that almost on every day where you try to get paid from Russia, there's always a bank holiday, or at least in the minds of some of our clients, it's always a bank holiday. So we definitely do struggle with that. Thankfully, a lot of them are existing customers, but exactly as Daniela said, when it's a new customer, especially from Russia or CIS countries, we have a huge issue in that area of how do we guarantee that those funds will arrive. And on that note, we'd really love to see Paynode rolled out, with integration into the Russia CIS banking systems. I understand that's got huge complexities associated with it, but I would really love to see some improvements made with fintech, especially with the Russia CIS countries, so that on all of the bank holidays and all the weekends and every day that seemingly money can't be sent from Russia, we have a more secure system, because the incidence of credit cards in Russia CIS is also quite low.
Right. Is anyone else experienced similar, with not necessarily the same region, of course, but similar issues? No, then I will jump on to Michael. We know that having to deal with refunds and last minute changes can have effect on the quoted price, and obviously this in turn can cause quite a headache. How are you dealing with those types of issues today?
With refunds, elaborate on that a little bit. Yeah, just as far as if a client refunds them, or if a trip is canceled or something along those lines.
Yep, or whether not all all passengers turned up, for example, for the flight, and but it was all paid for?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's contract's going to be different. We hold ours. Obviously, at the end of the day, you want to keep the client's business, and by taking their money and telling them, they're out of luck is the worst way to do that. So,
right.
Being flexible and having operators, it's just you hope everyone can work together with it, but there's not. I mean, I'm not quite sure how the best way to answer that question is right there.
No, thank you. Matt, same question in terms of last minute changes and refunds. What have you got in place today, or how are you coping or dealing with those sort of issues when they arise?
Yeah, it's different really. Some clients will just say, yeah, fine, we thought 7 were going to travel. We're doing an Italian flight. There's some Italian luxury tax to it. Instead of wiring it back, just keep it on the client account and keep it on file. We'll take, so I guess it really depends on the thresholds that we're talking. If it's a couple of €100 or dollars or whatever, I think normally we keep on account for the client, because it's just not worth the admin sometimes for their side as much as it is our side, especially if they're a client that's going to book again in 3-4 days time. I mean, I think, look, if we have an AOG, we'll always do our utmost to get that squared away. And if that costs us money, that costs us money. At the end of the day, that's ultimately a bit of a risk that we underpin and a responsibility we've got. Obviously, we do when we're sort of assigning jobs. We'll always try and look at operators with multi-fleet, so that we've got a little bit of a comfort blanket there. If we do have, technical things are always going to happen. It's a moving part. So, we always just, transparency for us is the big thing. We've got very, very personal relationships with the clients, which is a real thing that I've sort of pushed on. If it's broke, it's broke. Let's get on the phone. Let's tell them it's broke. Is it going to have an impact on the show? Are we meant to be doing 2 shows that night? Is it a football match? Have we got a football squad on there? Or actually, is it Aunt Mavis that's going on holiday and actually she's not bothered? She can quite happily wait 4 hours. I think every scenario is going to be a little bit different depending on the time sensitivity. And we'll work as a team, ahead of the flight, and we'll see what we're up against really. I think it comes down to that sort of planning. Never think that the plane's going to take off when it should and be fine when it says it will. I think there's got to be a bit of a realistic approach, and we have to, literally handhold each flight. Whoever's allocated for that flight from the team we'll do the various check-ins with either the crew or the ops or whatever, just to sort of make sure that transition is as smooth as it can be. And yeah, if for whatever reason the flight can't perform and the client says, hey, we want the funds back, then fine, at that point we refund it, and we liaise with the operator again, to the next steps. And I don't see that really changing too much, really, with the Paynode world, to be honest. How we have things set up currently here, it would be the same sort of procedures.
Okay, thank you. I want to jump back to another poll that was put out to the audience. What would be the most important improvements in your internal processes for payments? So it was approximately nearly 50-50 split for easier reconciliation and notifications when a payment has been made. Algie, thoughts on that? The other two were better collaboration with my finance team, better overview of transaction fees.
I would just say simply for us all 4. I mean, we struggle daily with every element of that, not least because we now, before COVID and actually especially due to COVID, we sit separately from our finance team. So we often don't have a lot of interaction with them. And obviously there's that constant divide between what the finance guys are doing and what the guys in sales and flight care are doing. So in our team anyway. And I would love to make that communication easier, more open. I would love the reconciliation and especially the notifications. I think I clicked notifications there because we're in a constant struggle of trying to find out if payments arrive, and we're so old school. We literally have to pick up the phone and speak to our finance guys, and that surely could be improved.
And thank you. Same for you, Daniela. What would be the most important improvements in your internal processes for payments?
I exactly follow what my colleague already explained. The best things should be the immediately communication between the sales and the administration. We have, of course, the same point of view as operator, and all the time that we need to contact the administration is another department. All the time we need to explain. So if something could be done inside in order to reduce this leak of time, it could be the best solution from my point of view.
Thank you. I am conscious of the time, and it has flown by. So there are a couple of questions I want to finish on. I ask this to everyone, and on my screen, I'll just go up to down. So start with Daniela. What is the one best advice to give to a colleague on reducing stress around payments? And I'll go through everyone. If you can just give me a short answer on that, please.
What I can say, try Paynode.
Sold.
No, I'm a fan of instant payment. So for me, it was the really good solution that you elaborated last year. And I try to suggest to all people that ask me some information about it. Because what can I say? Like PayPal, immediately, no issue, no problem, no country issue about time or something like that. It's just an immediate payment. Better than the credit card, or somebody can ask a Bitcoin. It will be better and faster.
Thank you, Daniela. LG?
Mine's a bit internally for my guys who are watching. It's probably to pick up the phone more. I know that kind of goes against a bit of the idea of tech and Paynode, not PayPal. Sorry, Daniela. Yeah, pick up the phone to people. It's so often that a blizzard of emails about payments and stuff can go between finance teams and clients, and sometimes, you know, even aggressions and stress can build up. Sometimes if you just pick up the phone, I think a lot of factors can be resolved and people can be understood a bit better, and that's how we find most of our situations get resolved, by actually speaking to people.
Thank you. Michael?
Most recently, with everything that's happened with the this other operator and mess up, it's get everything in writing always. And there's a trust level with some operators and even clients, but still having it in writing, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to come down to. And then from past experience, I'll always say no to cash.
Cool. Thank you. Matt?
Yeah, I mean, the same. Just, you know, simplify everything at the end of the day and be as transparent as you can. That's what I say to the team. You know, just, you know, like Algie said, pick up the phone. You can do so much over the phone and just expand the personal relationships with both client and operator.
Cool. And I'm going to ask one last question. I know I'm probably going to get played off stage very shortly, but I want to push it. If you could wish for one thing, what would you like to change in the next 12 months? One thing. Daniela?
Excluding COVID, I guess.
Yeah?
Well, a good question.
Shall we revert back?
We had last year some fraud, always concerning payment. So probably I will focus on that issue. And we had some issue for people that send bank transfer.
There's two things, but I'll give you that because you plug Paynode so well. I'll give you that. LG?
Mine's not to do with payments. Sorry, mate. I would really like to see a kind of a reversion to a little bit how things were before. People used private jets as like a sky scanner. People seem to just be checking prices because they can't find a commercial flight. And whilst it's great, it's brought a lot of new business to us. It's also, there's a great deal of requests in the market that don't seem to be any real flight point. And I'd really like that to be brought back. And I think the key is communication there between brokers and operators is bringing that back to let's find real trips and request them, rather than just let's find a price because there's no commercial flights for non-realistic charges.
Sure. Thank you. Michael?
I'll go from the broker's point of view and from the client. Going back to what Matt was saying earlier, I mean, the levels of of difference between how a client pays. If we could go towards the Paynode side of things and have an instant way that they could sign the contract and pay all in one spot would be, I mean, that would make my life so much easier. Right now, there's so many steps that go with it. And with some of these clients, I mean, if they've got several EAs or different levels and tiers that they have to go through to get something approved, or if it's just someone who has no idea how to wire funds or has trust issues with credit cards. I mean, there's just putting it all in one spot and making it as simple as possible would be my one wish.
Thank you. Last but not least, Matt.
I guess as somebody sat in the UK, I'm just hoping that we can sort of agree with all the relevant nations from an EU point of view. There's been lots of bumps in the road, and for me, that's going to add a lot of additional cost and complexity to simple trips, really. So I just hope that the CAA and everybody can work together with the other nations and we can get some sort of transparent agreement back in place as if we were back in Europe.
All right. Cool. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, Michael, Matt, LG, and Daniela, for all your input and insight. We very much appreciate that. I hope you enjoyed it. There were plenty of questions that did come into the chat. I have seen them, but as they were Paynode related, as much as I love the plugging that went on, I was trying to keep this a little bit. The Q&A will cover a lot of those questions that Brenton, myself, and Niklas will pick up on a bit later on. But for now, thank you, gentlemen, and please stay on for the rest of the event. And I know Brenton's about to take over and keep running the show. Cool.
For sure.
Well, until Brenton comes on, I guess you're stuck with me. Oh.
Here I am. Thank you very much, Pat, and to all the panel members. That was some good conversations going on, and also really great to see quite a lot of questions being asked in the chat. Again, some very good questions, and we will make sure that we answer them. We thought that, as Pat mentioned, some of those were more questions directed towards Avinode and Paynode around how that could actually work. So better that we handle that than throwing that to the panel. But there was one very early question on, which was around how will Paynode actually work for me, from Roger. And that sort of leads into our next session. So I will invite my, my colleague Niklas Berntsson on screen. He is actually our product manager for Paynode, and he's going to run through a short 5-minute demonstration of Paynode and give you an idea of different areas of Paynode. Hand it to you, Niklas.
All right. Thank you, Brenton. So my name is Niklas Berntsson. I am the product manager for Paynode. I'll give you a short demonstration of Paynode, which is our platform for managing air charter payments. So Paynode allows you to pay and get paid easily using credit cards, wires, as well as manage FX conversions and accept payments in local currencies. And then, of course, we have instant payments between members that you've heard about a little bit in the session earlier. While you watch this demo, please post any questions in the chat and we'll address them in the Q&A session afterwards. The video is just a few minutes long. Just like most of you, I am working from home and I unfortunately don't have my own podcast studio. So please accept my apologies for the sound not being perfect. It will sound like I'm very aggressive when I'm typing. Okay, so here we go. When you sign up for Paynode, the first thing we do is set you up with Paynode accounts. If you go to the Paynode P up in the top right corner, Finance and Accounts, you'll see multiple different currency accounts. As a start, we always set you up with a Euro account, a GBP account, as well as a USD account. But as you can see, you have the ability to add multiple different currencies. For each one of the accounts, we provide funding instructions. These can be used to fund the account yourself, or you can send it to your clients so they can pay directly into your Paynode account. If I select euros, for example, you'll see that we have SEPA instructions for funding the account. And of course, these instructions will be in your own name. Similarly, if you go to GBP, you'll have UK Faster Payment Services instructions. And if you go to USD, you'll see both ACH and FedWire instructions. We also give you SWIFT instructions, but we recommend that you use the local funding instructions because it's often much faster and also cheaper. Paynode also supports card processing. There's a few different ways to request payment via credit card. I'll show you one from a broker perspective. So if you go to trips buying and you find one of the trips that you've agreed with both the operator and the end client, and you expand the trip in one of the quotes, you'll see there's a button in order to request payment. If you click on that, you'll get a separate tab with the payment request form. Select credit card on the top, you type in the name of the client, and you add their email, and you have the ability to type a message if you would like. As you can see, we've carried over the trip ID from Avinode, and then you will add your line items for the charge. You can add more than one if you want to. And then you'll see that we carried over the itinerary from Avinode. So all you have to do is add your default terms and condition and cancellation policy. When you click on publish, email will go out to the end client that I specified up top with a payment link in it. After you publish, you get back to the incoming payment section in Paynode, and you'll be able to track the payment here. You can see that it's still awaiting payment, and in the history you can follow what happens to it. As soon as you receive the payment, you'll get an email notification. Paynode also supports instant payments between Paynode members. Instant payments works 24/7, 365. In this example, I'll be an operator requesting a payment from a broker. So we'll go to trip selling. And you'll see that next to some of the brokers here, there's a little Paynode badge. This indicates that the broker is onboarded to Paynode and instant payments are possible. If you expand the trip, you click on the Paynode button and select one of the amounts. We'll open up a payment request form again. You'll select instant payment on the top, and you'll see that most of the information on this form is populated. You of course have the ability to modify, but if you don't want to, you'll just select the terms and condition and the cancellation policy. And then when you click publish, an email will go out with the payment request for the broker. Similar to before, you'll be able to track this payment in the incoming payments section and see the status of it. The broker will receive an email for the payment request. You can click through the email and you will get into the outgoing payment section in Paynode. Here you have the ability to review the information about the payment request. If everything looks good, you'll click on Set Up Payment for approval. You'll now see that in the list here, you'll have one unpaid transaction that is pending approval. Many companies have it set up so that some users can set up payments for approval, while other users would have to approve the payment. In this case, I am allowed to do both, so I can actually pay the instant payment as well. So we see that it's 15,600. It looks like I have enough funds on the account, so I will go ahead and click pay, and then you'll have to confirm. And then we'll take a couple seconds and you'll see that the instant payment was successful. You'll also see that your euro balance has gone down and the transaction moved from pending approval to paid. And when this is completed, both parties will get notified that the instant payment was successful. The last thing I want to show is the Paynode account console. So if you click on Manage Balances, we'll open up a separate login screen. I'm already logged in here, and the landing page is the dashboard. From the Paynode account console, you'll be able to do things such as add a new currency account, pay any third party or yourself. You can also do transaction reporting as well as foreign exchange conversions. So I'll show you that quickly. You'll select the currency you want to sell, the one you want to buy. You'll type in the amount, and then you click on select the date. It will default to the next available date. You click on get a quote. You'll be able to review the quote you get, and if you're happy with it, you'll check the box, press convert, and it will take a couple seconds, and then you'll see that the US dollars have now converted into euros.
So I think next in line, we actually have a lot of questions piling up in our chat. So I will start by addressing some of those. Let me find where, well, while I'm looking for some questions, actually, Niklas, I know this is a question that sort of we always get asked a lot, so maybe I can start off with the first one. And it is, when you get up and running with Paynode, how do we control rights or permissions? Who in my company has permissions to do what? So maybe I can hand that over to you while I have a look at some questions.
Yep. So all the functionality in Paynode is driven by user permissions that you can manage completely yourself. So for example, you may want to allow your sales staff to request payments or set up instant payments, but only have, let's say, your finance team approve outgoing payments and so on. So it's completely up to you how you want to manage who can see what and who can do what in Paynode.
Yes, and so there was a couple of questions around keeping funds in escrow. Just to sort of dig into that, we do not. That's not how we are working with our payments. So we are not keeping funds in escrow. With that, there's always the possibility of the funds to be taken back from a buyer's perspective. So right now, with Paynode, when you send an instant payment, as soon as you send it as a buyer, it is instantly sent directly into the operator's account. And that is when they can see that those money is safe and secure in their account. So there's no possibility for the buyer to sort of cancel that transaction, similar to sending a regular bank transfer. Once the money is gone, it's gone. In the event that you have a AOG or the flight is cancelled, I mean, the operator, of course, can always send that money directly back to you, again, via instant payment. So from a buyer's perspective, you can just request that the operator send you that money back as quick as you sent it to them. And then, of course, you have it available to be used again with another operator. There was a question from Roger asking to explain exactly how Paynode will work, hopefully covering that a little bit in the demo, even without audio in some parts, helped answer that a little bit. But again, we would encourage you to speak with an account manager so we can show you in a bit more detail around that. Let me see some other questions there. There was a question from Roger around, will Paynode allow us to make payments in any currency? I can throw that question over to Niklas, actually, from a product side.
So Paynode supports, unfortunately, you weren't able to hear my voice when I showed you that in the demo. But when you sign up for Paynode, we give you access to, or set you up with 3 accounts to begin with in euros, GBP, and US dollars. You have the ability to add up to 40 currencies or so. I'm not going to say every currency, but a lot of them at least.
Nice. There was quite a few questions from Phil Brockwell, so let's try and take those questions. There was one question around what happens when operators and brokers cannot agree if a job is finished or not. Avinode itself, or Paynode, I mean, we don't control the funds in any Paynode members account. Those accounts are set up in the Paynode members company name, and they have full control over that. So in the event of any disputes, I mean, we can get involved as much as try to mediate that, but we are unable to, once a buyer sends money to a seller, we can't do anything around taking that money back. That money is safe. It would be up to the seller would then need to return either the full amount or a portion of the amount in the event that a job was completed or partially completed. There was more questions. Another question from Phil around, do we see Paynode being rolled out for payment of fuel handling or other things in the future? I mean, longer term, we hope to have a payment solution that is usable for more than just our Avinode marketplace. But at the same time, we also think that we have a challenge ahead of us now to transform the way that people are paying for charter within Avinode and within our charter industry. So that's really where our focus is right now. Obviously, down the line, once we get more established and paying with Paynode becomes more common among all of our Avinode members, certainly we will look to see where we can expand that to other areas, which could include handling, fuel, or something else. Let's see if we got any more questions coming in. There was a question just most recently from Roger again. What guarantees are in place to get payment back if an operator fails to perform? As I said, it is not, Avinode doesn't get involved in a dispute in that way. So we cannot guarantee that you will get the funds back, similar to if you were to wire the funds to an operator, they will be contractually obliged to send it back if they didn't perform. Obviously, that being said, we do not get involved in it, or we cannot forcibly remove money from one member's account. At the same time, we have no interest in having one rotten apple operator as part of our network who is going to act like that. So in the event that we see an operator who is, fraudulently withholding money, we are within our contracts to remove that operator from Avinode and Paynode as well. We obviously have a very stringent KYB process when you sign up to Paynode, so it will eliminate a lot of the sort of less professional companies out there. Hopefully that answers that question. And where else are we?
One of the questions were around fees.
Yeah, so fees of each transaction. I mean, so there's a couple of different, Paynode is free, it's cheap, and it is free in most cases. It doesn't cost anything to sign up. We don't have any monthly subscription costs, and we do not have any minimums that you need to spend. It's purely pay as you go. In order to receive payments, we never charge anything to receive payments, whether you're receiving payments via wire from an end client or you're receiving payments as an operator from a broker. If you use our credit card functionality, of course, there will be a credit card processing fee. That fee depends on the card that's being used. And to send an instant payment or wire, we do have a small fee associated with that. At the moment, it is looking around the €5 mark to send an instant payment or wire. But we have also removed that payment at the moment while we are looking to grow and get some more traction and getting more and more people using it. I have a question here for probably a more technical question. So I'll throw this over to Niklas. It's around PCI DSS certification for Paynode.
Yep. So we work with partners in terms of data security that have the highest level of security, as well as our own from our own front. We can send you some more information after this around the data security, but it is sourced safely on our end.
Okay.
And Manuel asked, so the buyer must keep a balance in Paynode to be able to pay the seller?
Yeah, I mean, right now, the way that you would need to keep a balance in your Paynode account to be able to pay the seller, but it's more around a cash flow issue for some. So there's a couple of ways to approach that. It is keeping a healthy balance of a certain amount that you have in your account for when you do need to pay those last minute or weekend trips. But also, it's not just for payments within the network to other members. We have several brokers already today which have adopted the system to, rather than having their end clients pay them directly into their bank account, for them then to transfer those funds into Paynode. With Paynode, you have wire instructions in euros, dollars, and pounds, all held in local accounts. So you're able to receive a direct wire from a client in the US, or from a client in Europe, or from a client in the UK, and they will be paid directly into your Paynode account via a local payment rails. So you're able to get that funds in very quickly, rather than having to potentially wait on an international wire, which might be the case if you're receiving a payment from a US client if you're based in Europe. And then, of course, you're able to easily wire those funds, so instantly pay those funds to an operator from there. So we had a lot of questions in the chat, and I do apologize. It's actually much more engagement than we were hoping for. So it's been very great to see that. Apologies if we haven't been able to address all of them, but we are cautious of time as we have 1 hour scheduled for the event. So we would like to wrap this up. I just want to give a big thank you to all of our panel members, Algie, Matt, Daniela, and Michael, for joining us in the discussion, and also to Niklas and Patrick from the Avinode team. But of course, also to everyone who took time out of the day to join the event, and for everyone to be engaged in the chat. We're going to stick around now for a little bit for the networking session. So if you do want to stick around and have a chat, please, you'll be able to find us there. And that might be one way to answer any questions that we may have missed during the session.
And just before, so none of us get shot afterwards, there is a couple of polls that have popped up. If you could just take a moment, cast your eye on them and give your input, that'd be greatly appreciated as well.
Yeah, and for any questions that weren't answered, we will download the chat later on as well, and come back on that as well. So don't feel like there weren't any answers or any questions that we weren't able to answer. But with that, we would like to wrap up the event, and you find the networking tab over on the left-hand side, and hopefully we will see you in there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.